Hello readers, welcome back to The Adulterous Whore. I'm your host, Stacey. So I thought we'd try something a little different this week. I wanted to try and do a segment called Conspiracy Theory with Stacey, bringing you non-fiction books of some of my favorite conspiracies. Now, I'm not saying that I believe every conspiracy that I come across, but some of them are crazy, and I enjoy falling down the rabbit hole to see how somebody came up with the idea of this conspiracy and what evidence there is to support it. One of my favorite ones that I really don't believe is that Avril Lavigne is a completely different person, that she died and they replaced her. There's some really crazy ones out there, but that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy reading about them. So today is season 2, episode 19, Conspiracy Theory with Stacey, and it's non-fiction books of my favorite conspiracies. And today I'm doing Becoming Brigitte by Xavier Poussard. Now, the reason I picked this book is because right now the conspiracy surrounding Brigitte Macron is really wild, and it's in the media right now. Now, I don't know if you follow Candace Owens on YouTube, but she took the book that I am going to introduce you to today and did a book segment on her show about whether or not Brigitte Macron was born a man. Now, I'm not saying that I believe this conspiracy, because honestly, nothing's really standing out to me that this person could be a man. And even if she is, who gives a fuck? That's kind of where I'm at. I'm going to give you the synopsis of the book in Xavier Poussard's own words. So, on May 14th, 2017, Emmanuel Macron came to power in France. A year earlier, the 39-year-old was completely unknown to the public. The blizzard was waged to sell on the French on this couple he formed with Brigitte, an attractive teacher he had seduced when he was 17, and she was 36. But the chronological order of events don't add up, and the story was rewritten many times until the administration that he met Brigitte, Emmanuel Macron, was actually 14. And Brigitte's past remains inaccessible, as she was someone other than who she claims to be, a mysterious individual who has now become Brigitte. I'm going to explain right now that the reason that may not have made sense in the way it was written is because this book was actually written in French originally and was translated by Xavier Poussard into English. So I think when reading the book, that was really evident. Did I believe this conspiracy before I read the book? The answer is there's definitely something shady going on here. I'm telling you right now that after watching Candace Owens' show and doing a little deep dive of my own, that yes, I believe that Brigitte Macron is hiding something. Now, do I think she's a man? At that point, I didn't know. I didn't have an opinion either way on that, but she is definitely hiding something. So what did I know about the conspiracy before I started reading this book? So the whole point of the conspiracy going around about her right now is that she was born a man, that she was born Jean-Michel Trogneux. And the belief is that Jean-Michel Trogneux had a sex change and took on the identity of Brigitte, which was the younger sister, who apparently has passed away. Now, you can't really find a lot of this on the internet. If you have a look, it's been scrubbed pretty hard. I even went back to the Wayback Machine and I did find stuff that showed that there are some really weird irregularities with the story, but you're not going to find a great deal on it. So, what evidence had I seen before I read the book? Okay, so this is like separate from the book. Firstly, there's no photographs of Brigitte and her brother Jean-Michel together at all. Okay? None. Like, if somebody says, hey, Stacey, I think you've had a sex change, and I think that you used to be the person who was your brother, I'd be like, really? And I would flash out every freaking picture that I have of me and my brother together. And there's a lot, because growing up, my mom didn't take a great deal of pictures. Like, it's not like she had a camera in our faces 24/7, but I have a lot. Like, I have a lot of pictures growing up with me and my brother, yet there's none, okay? Second of all, there's no photos of her and her ex-husband, who she spent a long time with together either, which is weird, because I had a previous marriage to a man who is disgusting, and there's pictures of us together. Like, weird, right? But yet she has no animosity against the man who has now passed away. Weird. It's weird. There's no pictures of her with her and her kids either when they were growing up, which is also really freaking weird. I'm sorry, that's really fucking weird. She refuses to have a blood test to prove that she's a woman. Now, me, if somebody said, you look like a dude, yeah, and it really hurt my feelings, I'd go get a blood test and say, fuck you. You know, like I don't know why she's hiding. Clearly there is something here that she is hiding. I just don't know what it is. There's no pictures of her pregnant. There's no pictures of her as a kid except for this one where she was apparently getting communion. And the facial recognition software that had the picture side by side of Brigitte now and her as a child says that there's no way this could be her. It was a really low probability. And they use this software, like governments use this software. So, okay. So that's where I was at, okay? Now, what Xavier Poussard did was that he took all the evidence that he had compiled over years, because this is years in the making, and pieced together this book. Now, there was something really funny that Xavier Poussard does in this book, is whenever he writes the word Brigitte, he puts it in air quotations, which I thought was really funny. So I just wanted to put that out there before I started. So this whole book talks about the fact Brigitte was an adult teacher, like she was nearing 40 when she was teaching at the school where Emmanuel Macron was attending. Now, Macron was like 14 at the time that this all kicked off. So, firstly, fuck. Like, you may not think that she's a man, but she's, at the very least, a fucking pedophile, okay? I'm sorry, but what kind of a teacher looks at a little kid and goes, oh yeah, it's my future husband right there. It's fucking nasty, man. It is nasty. So, they had a clandestine affair. Now, the book talks about how her past, there's very little known about her past, and that she was a teacher. And the qualifications she had, they can't find proof that she took that the what she should have had to become a teacher that she even had. So that's really fishy to start with. Now, it might just mean that she managed to maybe know the right people to get the slot in this school, that she had enough qualifications to be able to become a teacher. But that is really bizarre because this school is like one of the best in France. You have to be the best of the best to be able to teach there. You have to be the best of the best to even attend there. You know what I mean? It's rich money, rich money. So that right there smells a little off to me. And like I said, there's no pictures of her and her husband. And Xavier Poussard talks about that in detail. Because if you're a family and you get married, there's wedding pictures. There's pictures of you with your kids when they're little. There's pictures of you on vacation. Well, these people just literally got married and never were in the room together again. It's really strange. And you'll be even more hard pressed to find anybody to talk about them. Like Xavier Poussard went on a expedition of trying to find people to talk about Brigitte, talk about her marriage, talk about anything. And anybody that admits to knowing her will shut that conversation down. Toot sweet, sister. Okay? Toot sweet. So that's a little weird. In my opinion, that's really, really weird. Now, he also talks about how Macron went into financing, like into the finance sector, right? And other people that he was in school with whilst he was learning everything he needed to know said he couldn't grasp it. He had no natural talent for it. He really struggled. And that year, they did something really strange with the examination and the testing. And somehow, Macron manages to become the youngest ever managing director of a Rothschild's bank. Rothschild's bank. And if you're a conspiracy theorist like I am, when you know, you know. My husband hates that sentiment, and I just had to stick that in there to see if he even watches my show. You know full well that the Rothschilds are the center name in so many conspiracies. So that was entertaining for me to read right there. Now, apparently, if you ask anybody that knew Macron when he was younger, he was seriously not into girls. Like, he had none of the teenage boy angst for girls at all. They all thought he was gay. So it seems a little bizarre that the only woman to ever pique his interest was a woman that was that much older than him. And I'm not being funny. Like, I'm not throwing shade on Brigitte or anything, but the photos I've seen of her, the ones that stop of her being younger, she's not attractive. Like, they're like, oh, she was so hot. No, she wasn't. Like, she's a rougher looking lady. So a teenage boy, that's what he went for. That's fishy, okay? That's a big Stacey fish right there. So then he goes on to discuss how Brigitte does way more in the public arena of politics than any other first lady ever has done. She is invited to meetings she shouldn't be in. She's allowed to talk to delegates from other countries. She will go in his stead to do things as well, which is really weird because if you ask her, she's like, oh, I don't care about politics. I'm not about politics. And she says that a lot in interviews because I've seen that. But somehow she's always got her finger right in the middle, whatever business is going on. And she wasn't voted for. The French people didn't vote for her. She's not an elected official. So what the fuck is she doing? Weird, right? Like, come on. Even if you don't think she's a man and you think I'm absolutely out to lunch with doing this podcast episode on this book, you have to admit something is very, very wrong, okay? And that's not including the fact that she whooped him right on a plane, right in front of cameras. Like, come on. Something ain't right here. And sidebar, let's say you don't think she's a man, okay? The fact that this woman groomed a little kid that she was teaching in school, that should set your teeth right on edge. I don't care who you are, okay? She was married, she had kids, and she has some pretty serious sway over a man in power. And that right there is enough for me to be looking, I'm side-eyeing her pretty freaking hard, okay? I don't care if this is some romantic love story, okay? She should be side-eyeing her pretty hard. If you're a mother and you've got a 14-year-old son in school right now, do you want some 39-year-old teacher looking at him like he's fresh meat? No, thank you. She's disgusting, okay? Yuck. That's nasty shit. And then the French government, to kind of smooth all this stuff over and make it look like a love story, have actually dropped the age of consent for children to be able to have sex with adults to 13. Yeah, come on. There's something wrong here. Now, Poussard provides evidence that the media and the Macron family have been rewriting their history. Now, why would you do that? Because there's obviously something that they don't want you to know, more than we already do know, which is weird. It's already weird. Macron's already on his second term. What the fuck does it matter at this point? He keeps getting elected. Like, what is so bad that they have to change the narrative? Weird. Now, Poussard also talks about how people who knew him thought he was gay. And a radio host in France literally said this, okay? He put it out there on his platform. Nothing, crickets. Macron says, no, not true. And that's it. Yeah, Brigitte is currently suing Candace Owens for saying that she is trans. So why not sue over the gay comments? Like, there is something not right here. Why are you shutting down one set of voices about the trans stuff, but not on the gay stuff? It doesn't make sense, okay? And then there's this whole part of the book that talks about how the Macrons' inner circles are pedophiles, sexual deviants, drug traffickers, rapists, that there's incestual creeps on there, ones that have been sleeping with their kids. And there are a lot of them. I don't know about you, but me as a human being, I don't know anybody that has ever been charged with any kind of crime like that. Not one crime like that. In my circle of friends, this is just not things. But their list of people that they're linked to is long and arduous, okay? And Poussard talks about the main players in this, and it took up quite a lot of the book. And it explains what they did too. Like, it was quite, that was probably my least favorite section of the book because it was pretty freaking disgusting. I'm not gonna lie. They're all creeps. Creeps. Now, there are parts in the book that talk about Macron's parents. Now, for some people, this might be really key, pertinent information. Macron didn't spend much time with his parents. He spent an awful lot of time with his grandmother, and that's who he talks about with fond affection. He talks about being a bookworm. He was very isolated. But the biggest takeaway here is that both his parents were known for secretly helping people transition genders. Now, for some people, this is key. This is huge because that means that they had a grouping of people that had sex change doctors that did all the psychological stuff. They knew people that had sex changes, new identities. So it's not out of the realm to assume that maybe, just maybe, they could have done the same thing for Brigitte, but I just don't know why. Whatever. One of the biggest things that I have about this is that she is suing people for saying that she's trans. What does that say to a trans person? Like, it's so bad to be called trans that now you want to sue. I think that's kind of disgusting, in all honesty. She's not a very good person as far as I'm concerned. If someone was calling me trans, I'd be like, so what? Wow. Like, I don't know why this is such a big deal. Now, let's talk about the fact that Xavier Poussard went on an escapade of trying to find classmates of Brigitte's. Now, the ones that admit to knowing her won't tell you shit. They won't tell you, they will hang up on you, they will tell you nothing. But most of them are like, I don't know who that is. That person wasn't in my class. I don't know what you're on about. So that right there tells you more than you need to know, that she had a very small inner circle and no one else could remember her, which is not telling, but it is a little strange. Like, I don't know, I'm 44. I was in a fairly large class. Like, I think there was like 40 kids in my homeroom. I think that's what you guys call it here. In my homeroom, I can remember nearly everybody. And I can remember what order they sat in, because we used to do our registration in the mornings in a science lab. And I could tell you where each person sat, okay? So it's weird that these people don't remember her, because I know she's a little bit older than me, but still. It's weird. It's weird. I know most of the people that were in my year at school, and that was hundreds of kids. Like, and my memory is shot to pieces. You ask anybody, my memory is fucked. Okay. And she has this habit of forgetting details about her own life. She forgets ages, dates. She forgets the person's name. It feels like she's fabricated a story and she's forgetting pieces of what she's told before. Maybe she is slightly senile. I don't know. But let's say that that is the truth. Why is she so affluent in government if she's losing her marbles. You know what I mean? But now let's move on to Jean-Michel Trogneux, who Xavier Poussard seems to think is Brigitte. Now, firstly, if you go have a look at Ancestry, he's not even on their family tree at all. This supposed brother, not on their family tree. He has been completely either removed or he wasn't on there to begin with. So, weird. Again, it's just weird. He's the co-plaintiff against Candace Owens, yet no one's fucking seen this person yet. He hasn't shown up to shit. Now, something you'll also notice is his birth certificate is missing. Like, if you request a copy of it from FOIP, because you're allowed to do that, it's just gone. It doesn't exist. They admit that it was there at some point, but now it's gone. Why? Why is it gone? Why is it gone? And somebody else has shown and supposedly proven that Brigitte's birth certificate and the birth certificate of her children are all faked. Now, I can't find any information about that. Somebody saying it is not enough information for me, so I'm going to leave that to one side. But it does make you wonder if they were fabricated to show maybe she isn't the mother, maybe she's the father. Like, I have a lot of questions, but at the same time, that's kind of irrelevant for me because it doesn't really show anything. It's weird, but it's irrelevant. Now, there is I think she was a journalist. Her name was Stacey Wright, and she spent an unusually large amount of time in police custody because she was researching Brigitte Macron. Why? Why was she in police custody? Did she do anything illegal? It doesn't seem that way. It doesn't seem that way at all. But they wanted her to stop digging. Why? Why? Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but Brigitte Macron has clearly had work done on her face. Now, it's quite a lot of work. I'm not an expert in plastic surgery, but you can see that there is a fair amount of plastic surgery that's been done to her face. Now, it just could be she just doesn't want to get old. I feel that with my whole soul. That's why I don't drink, because, hello, I need to keep my skin nice. But she may well, the pressures of whatever, had plastic surgery. Whatever. I'm not throwing shade there either. But I did see this as part of it, okay? It says, in early July, a French publication published a story about the death of a surgeon, Francois Favry, who claimed to have information about Brigitte Macron's sex reassignment surgery, but he didn't get time to tell that. The article says he was found dead after falling from a great height. Now, it might be a coincidence. He may have just been saying that he needed money. I don't know. It's just a really interesting thing to see. Someone says something, then they die. Could be irrelevant. Could be really relevant. Now, a big part of the book is this facial recognition software, and the Chinese government use this, okay, to keep an eye on all their citizens. So this software is the best of the best. And what he did was he fed in pictures of the supposed Brigitte Macron from when she was a child and pictures of Brigitte now, and this software will match children's faces to adult faces. And it says that the picture of this little girl is not Brigitte, like not at all. And they tried different pictures of Brigitte, different angles. It was still a no, okay? And then they fed in the ones that they have of Jean-Michel Trogneux. And the software is saying that's a match. It shows you the pictures that they use, what the percentage was. Now, obviously, I can't fact check to see myself. Like, I can't feed this in myself because I don't have access to that kind of stuff. But it's really compelling. I'm not going to lie. It does seem really compelling. And then the whole thing about her teeth, too. If you look at the pictures of Jean-Michel Trogneux, there's pictures of him with fixed teeth and not fixed teeth. And it's really strange. And it's the same teeth that Brigitte has. Like, I don't know, it's weird. It is a little fish. I'm not going to lie, a little fish. Another thing that's really strange is that Jean-Michel Trogneux's record is sealed. If you go and ask for it, now in any country, if you request the military record, unless something really severe happened, you can get a copy of it. They're basic. You won't find this, okay? It is gone. They will not give it to you. It is gone. So if she doesn't have any skeletons in her closet, what is she hiding? Why the secrecy? Why sue people? If it's all lies, let's say Candace Owens is so out to lunch and Xavier Poussard is so out to lunch, why entertain this? For the most part, we conspiracy theorists can't do anything with this information. We may believe it, we may talk about it, but what are we going to do with it? We can't bring them down. As far as French people are concerned, if she's a man or woman, it don't matter. It's whatever. It's irrelevant. They're still voting for Macron. So why is she working so hard to squash these things? It's a little strange. But what did I think about the book? Now that I've given you the gist of what it's about, it was boring. It was drier than a popcorn fart. Xavier Poussard obviously wrote the book in French originally, and it probably still may well have been dry, but he translated it into English, and honestly, it was the most boring thing I've ever read in my life. And I was 100% intrigued by this idea that she could be a man. Even I found this boring. The evidence, that's the only parts that were interesting enough, weren't presented in any kind of way to make entertainment. It's like he was just like blah 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 blah. It was monotone, it was boring, it's like bleh. It's like someone puked all over the page and just said, here you go. That's how boring it was. But for me, she's no ally to trans movement. She's no ally to the LGBTQ community. She is making it seem like being trans is a really bad thing and that being associated with that means suing people. So honestly, she's a scumbag. I'm sorry, Brigitte Macron, you're a fucking scumbag. Now that right there is enough for me to dislike her, but is she a man? Again, I don't have enough proof to say either way. There's a lot of compelling stuff in this book that would make you go, interesting. There's lots of missing pieces. There's stuff in here I wish I knew more about, but honestly, they have a habit of suing people who ask too many questions, so I won't be doing that. Thank fuck my platform is very small, because yikes. Now, there could be a million reasons why she doesn't want her past coming out. She could be Macron's handler. She could be work for the CIA. The fuck do I know? Maybe she's just a sexual predator who grooms little kids. Maybe there's more of that in her closet. I don't know. It's fishy, and if you dig, you get sued. So I don't recommend digging too deep, and if you do, be warned, because you might be in trouble. The lack of photos is probably the biggest thing for me. No photos to prove that you gave birth or were pregnant or that you were with your husband or even of you growing up. It is really strange. I don't know. If this was me, I would be showing people photos. I would get a blood test done that proves that instead of wasting all this money going to court, I would just prove it. Like, I don't know why she's not, but it really does make me think that she's hiding something and she lives in the public eye. Like, I'm sorry, you want privacy? Good luck with that. You're a first lady. Too bad. So do I recommend this book? For information on the evidence that Xavier Poussard has pieced together, yeah, it's a decent book. But honestly, I don't recommend it for you. If you're just looking for some entertainment, it's boring as fuck, don't do it. And it's really, really pricey for what it is. I think it was $40-something. And it's not a very big book. It's like 230-something pages, I think, or 280 maybe, I don't know. But it was tedious, monotone, and if you're looking for some entertainment with your conspiracy, this ain't the book for you. But the evidence stuff is really cool. So what do you think? What do you think of this conspiracy surrounding a politician's wife? Do you think she's a man? Do you think that she's just wanting some privacy? Let me know in the comments. Do you have a favorite conspiracy you want me to talk about? Because I've got hundreds, but I'm happy to see what you guys have got coming up. Now, next week, I will be back to my Read Like Rory challenge. I'm going to do Angela's Ashes next week, so I've already read it. Like, I read it a couple weeks back, so I'm ready to go with that. I'm so happy that you're sticking with me. If you can give me a subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/@ladulterous, I would be really grateful. You can always email me, ladulterous@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram, Adulterous Whore. You can find me on TikTok, @ladulterous. I have a Facebook page, @ladulterous. And find me on Spotify. And if you give me a follow and a 5-star review on Spotify, you can be in with a chance to win. So I've got all these bookish prizes that I'm giving out to anybody that does that. And if you just comment on one of my videos, let me know that you've done it, I will add you in. And that is open worldwide. I hope you have the reading weekend that you deserve. And I will see you tomorrow because I'm recording with Hannah on the Toppling TBR. We're doing Air of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. So you should join us for that. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow. Take care, readers.